Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. We're just waiting a few seconds before going live. Today we're going to talk about real estate training. People hate talking about training when it comes to becoming an agent and how to deal with real estate training. So let's kick things off, inshallah. Bismillah. So when you become an agent, we said we gave you the steps of how to pick a brokerage. We gave you the steps of how to pick a team lead. My recommendation was obviously 100% you have to join a team if you want to do things right, if you want to do things effectively, if you want to do things efficiently. Now that you're in a team, where do you start? There are so many different aspects, and people think what it takes to become an agent is just showing houses. No, actually, showing houses is probably the easiest part of being an agent. The hardest part is probably the prospecting, and I gave that definition in the previous video. If you didn't watch it, watch that before you watch this video. Prospecting and the interview process after each showing. How do you work with your client to understand their actual needs? So let's talk about it. As an agent, you're going to have these certain parameters. You're going to have the idea of prospecting. You're going to have the idea of consultation. You're going to have the end of showing houses. You're going to have the end of the technical work where you're working with documents. You're going to have the communication where you're bringing the title company with the lender and yourself and the listing agent. All of these are aspects you're going to have to deal with. So where do you start first? You start with prospecting. 100%. You have to start with prospecting. What is that? When I first became an agent, the name sounded weird to me. And I think the reason why they call it prospecting is because it's basically cold calling. And no, that has a negative connotation to it. So when someone hears, oh, I got a cold call, then they don't want to do it. But the reality is, it is cold calling. So let's run through that real quickly so you can understand. The first question before you do anything is to understand, why do I need to do it? Why is this important? And that's what will build you the drive you need to actually work on it. If you start doing something, if some people think showing houses is the most important thing. If I'm not showing houses, I'm not a good agent. If I'm not closing houses, I'm not a good agent. That's actually false. That's actually false. There are agents that are showing houses day in and day out, not closing houses. There are agents who have closings every single month, but then they're dry for half the year. So what does that really mean? Remember, real estate is a business. Real estate is not a job. So for you and I, we have to look at it like a business. So let's start from ground zero and build our way up. What does that mean? It means you have to have the foundation of a business. The way you develop the foundation of a business is you make sure you have enough clients in your pipeline. You need to make sure you have enough people that you're addressing in your pipeline. Pipeline is a term that's basically referred to as your roster, right? Your options to pick from. You know, when you're playing Street Fighter and you have all these options to pick from the characters, when you have limited options, it's kind of annoying, right? That's what leads agents to freaking out. When you're an agent and you only have three clients, you're only working with three clients. And from those three clients, one of them says, well, I don't want to buy a house anymore. You start freaking out because a third of your income is out the window, gone. Versus if you're an agent that's planning on selling three houses that month and you're working with 10 clients and two of them says, you know what, I'm out. You're not stressed. You're like, that's okay, no problem. Come back to me when you're ready. I can help you out then. Because you still have eight more clients that you're working with, and your pipeline has more clients waiting for you to work with. And that's the whole idea of having a business. You know, when you go to a shop, a mechanic, or any business, and if you go to a restaurant, if you don't pick an item, they're not stressed about it. If you don't come and get a reservation, they're not worried, because there's going to be someone else coming in to take your spot if you don't take it. So you need to have a business where you have enough clientele that you don't stress about one person just backing out or just canceling the deal. You see, when someone does that, the agents, they become emotional, they become triggered, they feel all of their money is on the line, and that's when they lash out at their clients. They'll get really angry. Why would you cancel this deal? And that's when you have a bad reputation. You don't want that. So how do you establish a foundation strong enough where you have a pipeline that has enough clientele where you don't end up stressing out, where you're like, okay, I don't have to fall into this trigger mode. It's simple. You prospect. Me explaining all of this was to build you to this point to show you the importance of prospecting. Because if you prospect, if you actually put the time in, you'll have enough people in your database to refer to. So let's go into this. This is why you need a team. Because usually when you're working with a team lead, your team lead will have a system in place. There are so many different systems that are available. Some people get leads directly from Zillow. Some people, like my team lead, he works with Facebook marketing and he'll get people coming in from Facebook. You have people coming getting leads from other agents, leads from the brokerage, leads from Instagram. So leads are all over. There are people who are buying houses every single week. Every single week they're buying houses. If I tell you that there are agents that are selling 4 to 6 houses a month, that's not insane. They're still doing that in this market. The reality is you and I are not doing that, but those people are still buying houses. So how is that happening? It's happening because you're not part of it. So let's go into this discussion. How do I become a part of it? You work with a team lead, and your team lead should be able to give you a list, a list of potential clients to call. And that's why I said that, because if you just stay alone and you're independent, you're not going to have that list. You're not going to have someone to call. You don't want to call someone who bought a house last year, talking to them, do you want to buy a house? No, the guy doesn't want to buy a house. He already bought a house. You want to call people that have some interest in houses in general. When you go to a car website, I want you to do this. Go to any car website. Toyota, Lexus, same thing pretty much. Chrysler, GM, go to any of them. Just go on the website, start looking at cars. You're gonna have this chat pop up and say, "Can I help you with something?" That's their virtual assistant, their AI, whatever it is. That when you put in information, say, "I am interested in a Lexus ES350," that's it. You're registered, and now you're someone with interest. Just like that, there are people who are interested in houses that say, I'm interested in a 4 bedroom house, 2.5 bath in Sterling Heights. Boom, that's someone who has interest. Now, whether they have money or not, whether they're qualified, whether it's the best time for them, that's going to come up in later lectures, the later discussions, maybe when we go into it. But prospecting is this. You go to your lead, you say, give me some people to call. They're going to give you people to call. You have to call them not once. You have to call them not twice. You have to call them 3 times a week until they actually answer. Just because you have the number doesn't mean they're going to pick up. And this is the part where most of us fail, because we'll call the first time, it goes to voicemail, and we give up. The best thing is to double dial, right? Back to back. So you call once. Remember, your number is a number they don't recognize. You call a second time. Then they'll realize, okay, it's worth picking up maybe. Maybe it's not a spam call. And you're not spam. You shouldn't be spam. If you're calling someone like a spam call would, then obviously they're going to hang up on you. This person that you're calling has some interest towards houses in the market. So when you are calling them, the script that you follow is going to be important. And that script comes from your lead. Here's the biggest disconnect that I've seen in agents when they want to prospect. They have the script in front of them and they read it as if they're reading a book in social studies in middle school. When the teacher used to say, okay, you read next, and you start reading, and in 1942, Christopher Columbus. No, that's not how you do it. You have to bring your own emotion into the actual discussion. You have to have that. If you don't have that, if you're just reading it like a robot, people are gonna look at you like actual spam calling them. So my recommendation is, first go to your lead, say, I want to prospect. Teach me how to prospect. Have some mock dialogues between yourself and your lead, or yourself and other real estate agents, so you can get the feel of it. And the best thing and the first thing you need to do as an agent when you're prospecting, this is 100%, you need to get yelled at. You need to get rejected. You need to get smacked. Like, you need to be told off. Like, why are you calling me? Get off. Stop bothering me. Because if you can't face that rejection at that point, you're not ready for a business. I'm sorry. Because if you think that's too much to handle, you have no idea what real estate is about to throw your way. The amount of pressure and stress that comes dealing with real estate, you are dealing with people's life savings. There are going to be very, very emotional moments, high stress moments when you're dealing with someone. Even though you're doing your best to help them, things always go wrong. It's going to come down to you to make sure that those issues don't take place. Does that make sense? So for us, we have to make sure that we do our best to learn the dialogues and get rejected. Once you get rejected, then it's not a problem. Once you get rejected, then it's not an issue. Now you know how to handle rejection. Most agents don't deal with rejections. They don't want to deal with the confrontation. They never get leads. And the only business they have is their best friend, their cousin, their uncle, their aunt, their mom or dad or somebody, and that's it. They sell 10 houses, put their agent license on the wall and say, I was a real estate agent. I joined real estate. I became an agent. I'm an agent too. I can help you. And they haven't sold more than 5 houses. They know nothing about anything. They know nothing about anything. Does that make sense? Meaning they don't know anything. And that's the problem. So if you don't deal with the rejection first, you won't know how to prepare yourself mentally for the emotional stress of real estate. Once you have that down, then you can go to the next step. So even though this is the worst part of real estate, I mean it, I genuinely mean it. Prospecting is you can ask any agent in any brokerage in any state, everyone will say the worst training is prospecting. But if you go to any agent that makes over 200K and you ask them, what training made you the most money? They're going to say prospecting. 100% every single time. It's huge. Our teachers tell us, one of our teachers, he told us that whenever it comes to training yourself towards a certain field or subject, there's going to be that one department that you hate doing the most. And you have to make sure you always work on that department, because that's probably the department that's going to take you to the next level. And because you hate doing it, it's probably something that's really tedious, very annoying, but those are the actions that give you the most reward. So for an agent, you have to know how to prospect. You have to take time. It takes time. You get rejected. When I trained my first agent, we would just sit in the car and I would pretend to be the client and he would just question me and I would just reject him left and right. And then what would I do? I would teach him how to handle rejection. How do you navigate? How do you pivot? How do you actually understand what the client is looking for? Remember, they still want to buy a house. It's either going to be through you or with somebody else. So that's my 2 cents for the day. You should always focus on prospecting. If you're a new agent and if you haven't dealt with prospecting, you need to. If you're working in the team and the team didn't make you do that yet, he needs to or she needs to. And if they haven't, then talk to me, directly message me, ask me. I'll teach you how to prospect. That's not a problem, but it's a real part of the business. It's the foundation of the business, and it's what keeps the business alive. So, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the NAR settlement on Saturday, inshallah. So make sure you guys tune in. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.